Hello, and welcome to ExultX Audio Articles Podcast. Today, we're discussing a vital topic for anyone in tactical professions: training periodization. Our focus is on how to effectively periodize training for tactical populations, ensuring readiness and long-term performance. So, to begin, it is important to understand training periodization as a systematic approach to training originally developed for traditional athletes. It involves structuring training programs to optimize physiological adaptations, enhance performance, and prevent injuries. But how can these principles be adapted for tactical populations? The traditional periodization model is based on a structured hierarchy of training units that is repeated in cycles, and it has many levels. At the top level is the Olympic quadrennial cycle, followed by macrocycles that usually last a year or shorter, depending on the sport and context. Below that, we have mesocycles, which are of medium size, like months, for example. And below, we have microcycles, which are smaller, like weeks. At the foundation of this hierarchy are the individual workouts and exercises, serving as the fundamental elements of training system. The yearly training schedule, macrocycles, is typically organized into three primary periods: the preparatory, the competitive, and the transition. The length of these periods depends on the annual plan. This plan could have 1, 2, 3, or more competition periods, known as a monocycle, bicycle, tricycle, or multi-peak plan, respectively. The preparatory period establishes the physiological foundation for performance and is classically subdivided into general and specific preparation. During the competitive period, the main objective is to reach peak performance capacity. To structure this period, it is traditionally subdivided into subphases, such as pre-competitive, competitive, unloading or tapering, and special preparation. Following this, a transition period is usually used to ease the fatigue accumulated during the competitive period and aid the athlete's recovery from physical and psychological competition-related stress. Despite this period allowing recovery, it also serves as preparation for the next cycle. The traditional theory of periodization suggests the simultaneous development of general and specific biomotor abilities. This argument is based on the idea that biomotor ability development is both sequential and integrated, with one ability positively influencing others. As such, the traditional periodization model is primarily characterized by the alternating emphasis on volume and intensity between the preparatory and competitive periods. It's worth noting that in non-monocycle annual plans, the preparatory period tends to progressively shorten. In the late 20th century, some sports scientists and coaches criticized the use of traditional periodization. They argued it does not meet the demands of contemporary sports reality, which saw a significant increase in the number of competition moments. Nevertheless, they also noted that the simultaneous development of several biomotor and skill abilities creates restrictions in the athlete's development. Another common argument is the excessively long periods of general and specific preparation for high-level athletes. These reasons led to innovations and experimentation with new models of periodization. One of them was training block periodization. This model involves the use of highly concentrated and specialized training workloads, organized into distinct units, known as training blocks or mesocycle blocks, which typically last 2 to 6 weeks. These blocks are designed to serve specific training abilities and skills. In contrast to the conventional practice of simultaneously developing multiple abilities, block periodization emphasizes sequential development. One common approach consists of 3 mesocycle blocks: the accumulation block, which focuses on enhancing fundamental skills, including overall aerobic endurance, muscular strength, and general movement techniques; the transformation block, which concentrates on developing specific skills, combining aerobic and anaerobic endurance, specialized muscle endurance; and technique tailored to the specific event. And the realization block, which is structured as a pre-competition training stage, with the primary focus on practicing competition-specific routines, achieving peak performance, and ensuring recovery in preparation for the upcoming competition. The modification of the training design results in a reduction of approximately 10 to 15% in the annual training volume. Normally, the focus of this periodization is on the block mesocycles rather than the periods. However, for logical reasons, traditional periods are often used to assist in planning the year. Naturally, the length of the accumulation block progressively decreases throughout the annual plan, while the realization block gradually increases. The duration of each training block is influenced by training residuals. However, it can vary due to multiple factors. For example, they may be shorter as the athlete approaches the peak of the season, or longer to address specific requirements. When extending training blocks, it's essential to implement measures to preserve the long-term training effects. One crucial concept in block periodization is training residuals. This term pertains to the retention of changes in physical condition and the level of motor or technical skills achieved after a specific training program within a defined time frame, and it is closely associated with detraining. In reality, detraining in high-performance sports primarily affects specific abilities that are not adequately maintained through training. As such, Isorin proposes an approximation of these periods for different skills. He suggests a residual duration of 30 days for aerobic endurance and maximal strength, 18 days for anaerobic glycolytic endurance, 15 days for strength endurance, and 5 days for maximum speed. For better understanding these residual days, refer to the duration and physiological basis of the residual training effects that persist after the cessation of training for these specific motor abilities. Now that we have reviewed all these concepts, we are ready to explore the periodization of tactical athletes. Several factors can complicate this process, including a misunderstanding of workload in a tactical context, differences in taxonomy between sports and tactical environments, the absence of competitions in operational settings, the lack of deployment periods across all tactical settings, the prioritization of passing physical assessments over improving functional performance, and a strong adherence to traditional practices or fitness trends within tactical organizations, to name just a few. These points represent only a subset of the most common issues, but many others could be listed. However, as observed in the sports context, several decades ago, similar situations often led to non-periodized training, resulting in a lack of effective management of training stimulus, training monotony, and inappropriate workloads. It is crucial to acknowledge that these circumstances do not support long-term performance improvement, injury prevention, or performance optimization. Still, there are already some proposals that adapt sports periodization to the tactical context and allow it to become more user-friendly. Let's talk about them. While scheduling competitions is a key element of sports periodization, it's less relevant for tactical populations. Their main goal isn't winning competitions, but ensuring readiness and performance for duty. This means they may not have a dedicated competition period. However, with deployment, we can effectively address this issue by aligning the competition period with the deployment period. Nevertheless, a taxonomy problem persists. Referring to a deployment period as a competition period is often confusing and not well received in tactical settings. For units that are deployed, we can adapt the traditional periodization to the tactical context. Doing this adaptation, we will have 3 periods: the pre-deployment period, the deployment period, and the post-deployment period. It's crucial to remember that periodization for tactical populations needs to be very flexible, especially during the deployment period, when it must be highly adaptable to the circumstances. When creating an operational plan, the primary focus should be on defining training or performance objectives. These objectives should be planned based on the tactical athlete's strengths and weaknesses, as well as the operational constraints they may face. It's important to have a well-rounded training approach that includes both physical conditioning and tactical and technical skills. Moreover, it's crucial to incorporate tactical and technical training into the overall plan and consider them in workload management. When in deployment, it is mandatory to consider the density and frequency of tactical engagements, as these can be extremely physically and mentally demanding. If there are high levels of frequency and density, additional recovery measures may be necessary, and training sessions should be adapted accordingly. It's also crucial to be aware of various factors that could influence the training sessions, such as mental demands, changes in nutrition, environmental conditions, quality of sleep, training space, available materials, and many other. The strength and conditioning coach, the tactical fitness instructor, and the operator must all understand these factors and plan and work accordingly. As so, there may be deployments where the primary goal of training is to minimize the decrease in fitness due to the lack of conditions for regular training. On the other hand, there could be deployments with all the necessary conditions for training, allowing for more ambitious goals. That being said, it is important to highlight, once again, the importance of adaptability in training during deployment, as well as the management of workload and delayed onset muscle soreness, known as DOMS. But not all tactical populations have deployments. So how can we periodize and get operators fit for duty when they need to be on call throughout the year? Firstly, it's important to identify the most demanding periods of the year. For instance, summer is normally the most demanding time for firefighters. Law enforcement officers may find seasonal events with substantial crowds to be demanding. Emergency responder personnel also face increased demands for their services in extremely harsh environments. Nevertheless, it's crucial to acknowledge that tactical events can occur at any time, but at least we know that these specific periods are more demanding than usual. This means that during a normal year, there could be several periods with an increased occurrence of tactical events. In terms of sports science periodization, tactical athletes may need to prepare for a year with multiple occurrences. As we saw earlier, we can apply traditional periodization for a multi-peak year, but we can also utilize block mesocycle periodization. When considering non-deployment units, we can periodize using 3 key periods: the pre-operational, operational, and transition periods. In traditional periodization for non-deployment personnel, the periods typically labeled as initial deployment and deployment should instead be termed pre-operational and operational respectively. Although the principles of volume, intensity, workload, and fatigue management remain consistent, the training methods can differ between deployed and non-deployed personnel. These differences are primarily due to the availability of materials, space, environment, and settings. However, it's important to note that these factors can also vary significantly from one tactical setting to another. By using block training periodization, we can implement ATR block mesocycles, referring to accumulation, transmutation, and realization. Typically, this approach presents no taxonomy issues or misunderstandings in tactical settings. Effective tracking of workload and fatigue is crucial in both operational and non-operational settings. However, working with non-deployment personnel often provides better conditions for monitoring not only the session's workload and fatigue, but also individual responses to the load. Effective strategies include using reps in reserve method, or RIR, during strength sessions, ensuring gradual progression in cardiorespiratory training, analyzing biomarkers during and alter sessions, and conducting regular performance tests, along with subjective wellness questionnaires. To prevent high levels of fatigue, simple strategies could include performing sets with 1 or 2 repetitions in reserve, and avoiding sudden increases in intensity or volume during cardiorespiratory sessions. Finally, It's important to consider tactical athletes in training courses. Some courses have extended durations, during which both periodization approaches can be applied. Typically, candidates undergo physical assessments at the end of the course. The assessments can range from general tests to activities like foot marches, obstacle courses, or many others, depending on the course specificity. In this context, we refer to this stage as the assessment phase. At this podcast, we don't intend to advocate for any specific periodization model. We understand that each of them can be applied depending on the contexts. However, it's crucial to emphasize the importance of managing training workloads in tactical populations to prevent injuries, ensure daily readiness, and enhance long-term performance. While there's much more to explore on this topic, we've covered plenty today. If you'd like to read this information in detail, please visit our website, ExultX.com. There, you'll find our free Excel template designed to assist with your tactical athlete's periodization. If you have suggestions for improvements, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us via email or connect with us on social media. Thanks for tuning in, and if you found this episode interesting, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of tactical population. That's all for today. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Until then, stay fit, stay strong, and stay ready.